Hi, everybody. Just waiting for everyone to join. Good evening. Just waiting for everybody to join. Hi, Sister Juanita. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining in. I'm going to make this one really quick, but you saw what I posted earlier about this conversation around whether or not teachers instill hate. And I thought I would just share a little information on this, insight on what's going on with school districts. So good evening, everyone. I'm DrCathyO, and welcome to Newsday Tuesday, keeping you informed about the education news and the impact it has on your own local community, not just that of teachers, principals, and other educators, but parents and community citizens and those of us who need children to learn to not only work in our businesses, but run them and help to advance our legacy. So in any case, if you've been following me on social media, then you saw the post from our government where there seems to be a little angst and disagreement with what's going on in the classroom. If you've been paying attention to everything going on around the country, then you know that part of this national race movement includes the removal of various statues in different cities. I've actually visited those in Richmond, Virginia, and it is quite something to see when you drive down that street. So when I've been working with the State Department of Virginia, I've had many opportunities to drive down the street and look at all of those statues. Believe it or not, my grandfather is named Ulysses Grant, and so that puts forth quite a bit of discussion in my family. But in any case, what we've read in the news lately shows that our national leaders assert that teachers are responsible for some of the hatred across the country and that they have been instilling this in students. Let me just tell you, as a successful, accomplished educator who has worked in schools and districts and colleges and other education institutions across the country for more than 25 years, I can assure you that by and large, teachers aren't instilling hate. They are not teaching children to be racist and hateful. Now, are there teachers out there who are racist? Absolutely. Are there teachers out there whose hidden curriculum sends a negative message to students, and in some cases their actual direct instruction and curriculum carries some error, particularly when it comes to history? But can we interpret that to mean that teachers are responsible for race relations across this country and what we've seen happening here recently as a result of not only the murder of George Floyd, but many examples of police brutality? No, we cannot blame that on teachers, nor can we say that this kind of behavior comes from what teachers have instilled in students in the classroom. Teachers are not instilling hate. Let me just make something very clear to everyone. Teaching continues to be very much a thankless job. And I don't mean that parents and community citizens don't appreciate teachers. I'm not saying that students don't value teachers and that kind of thing. I'm saying that teaching is a thankless job because it is the one industry where our entire nation does not put the proper support and finances behind this industry as it does with everything else. Teachers have the most compromised health many times. Teachers are expected on day one to perform at the same level of people who've been teaching 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Teachers' performance is judged by how their students perform on a standardized assessment, regardless of everything else that could be going on in that student's life or in their little heads on test day. People assume that teachers get their nights and weekends and summers and holidays and snow days if you have them off, and that technically is not true. Most good teachers, effective, highly qualified teachers, are putting in 10, 12 hours a day. They take their work home with them almost every night and sometimes weekends. They are most certainly essential workers, so they don't have time to spend a majority of their curriculum and their instruction in the classroom teaching children to hate each other and to grow up and hate each other and instilling in them characteristics and values that make them go out and murder someone because of the color of their skin. And they most certainly are not teaching policemen to hold a black man down in the street while everybody is watching and literally choke the life out of him. So I am extremely befuddled that our government would even make that statement, even assume that something like that could be. Now, let me tell you this. The miseducation of children, black and brown children, as well as their white counterparts, is something that has been perpetuated over time. It has a lot to do with how teachers are taught in the first place, but it's also controlled by education policy, and education policy has an impact on what is and isn't taught in the classroom. One of my really good friends moved from Pennsylvania to Maryland, and she said that when she moved to Maryland to teach social studies and history, she had to cover things that Maryland's curriculum required that Pennsylvania never even addressed. I grew up in North Carolina, but my cousins and friends who went to school in Virginia, we had different topics that our teachers or our school districts or our state felt were important or valuable. So there's no one teacher who's going to teach every single thing in the book. And so we can't just blame teachers for everything that students know and don't know, and certainly for all of the misinformation. I will tell you what is instilling hate in children so that other news articles that come out may be corrected despite what we're getting from the federal government. What is or who is instilling hate in children is their local environment. Children are most certainly a product of their environment, and all of us as adults used to be children. So we have values, attitudes, characteristics. We make assumptions, presumptions, presuppositions. All of this is based on where we come from, what took place in the environment in which we were reared, whether we agree with it or not. There are things I absolutely will not do as an adult. There are values I absolutely do not have because I want them to be the opposite of some of the things I saw and experienced during my childhood. Then there are others, many of you watching me on this video, who are saying, yes, that's true. There are things from my childhood that have grown up with me. And so I do these things because of what was instilled in me as a child. And there are things that I don't do because of what was instilled in me as a child. But children aren't going to school to learn hate. They're learning it most of all at home or whatever environment they're exposed to. They are learning a lot of things at school, but they're learning it from their peers, and their peers are bringing these values and attitudes to school. They're not necessarily getting them from teachers. Now, let me just be transparent with you. I grew up in a predominantly white, rural, poor environment for the most part. So I guess we had maybe a 40-60 mix in the little town where I grew up. And I most certainly experienced racism as a student in a K-12 environment, and I knew that I was experiencing racism. And I most certainly had teachers, good teachers, whom I felt and was treated as though they were addressing me solely as a young learner and not a young, struggling, poor Black girl. So my experiences are mixed with all of those different things that I had in my teaching and my upbringing. There were teachers I felt really didn't like me, and there were a few I felt really didn't like Black people. And there were a few Black teachers who let me know it'll always be different for you because you're Black. Always remember that you'll never be like them. This was real world for us. This is real world for most of the people watching me tonight. But I just want to defend the teaching profession by saying teachers are not responsible for all the hatred and racism and crime that we see across this country. Listen, we work with what we get. Whoever is sent to school, whatever children come to school from whatever family they come from, that's who we have to teach. And most of the teachers out here are doing this job because they love it, because they're giving back, because they want to make a difference, because it's what they've always wanted to do, because they are good at it. They feel they're good at it. They want to be good at it. But for the most part, they care about kids. Make no mistake, there are those who do not. But for the most part, this is not a job you go into when you don't like children and when you want to teach people to hate each other. Every teacher who's watching me tonight can probably agree that there are those kids that grow on you. You know, at the beginning of the school year, this one is going to give me some problems. This one is going to get on my nerves. This one is a fruitcake. And I don't mean to sound unprofessional. I say this in almost every presentation I've made across the country, even with teacher educators at colleges. There is always one fruitcake. There's always one student. They're just bouncing off the walls. They don't pay attention. It's difficult to get them under control. You've got to come up with 15 different strategies to get through to them. And I just choose to say it's the fruitcake experience. And it's good for everybody. In other words, there's a whole lot in it. You got to kind of work through it to get to the good stuff and make sure that there's a positive learning experience. So I digress. But that being said, don't believe what you're reading and hearing in the news. You probably already don't. Teachers aren't responsible, and they are not instilling hate in people. People's hateful responses are a direct result of where they come from, who they were raised by and with, what values they were taught at home. They bring all of that to school. Teachers would love for students to leave their baggage out in the hallway, but unfortunately, that's not the way the world works. So we have to teach who comes into the classroom with whatever they bring with them in their thinking, in their attitudes, in their responses. As an English teacher, I had lots of highly engaged, open discussion in my classroom. You would not believe some of the things that my students said, some of which I agreed with, some of it I didn't, some of which was appropriate, some was inappropriate. And sometimes students will speak out loud what they're thinking, as they're developing their thoughts. And many times it is the teacher's role to be the mama, the grandmother, the coach, the counselor, the confidant, the friend, the advisor, the problem solver, on and on and on. So there's no time really to be instilling hate. And teachers have also learned very much from a professional ethics perspective that some opinions that we have, we just keep to ourselves, whether it's political, whether it's religious, whether it's race related, whether it has anything to do with sexual identity and preference. We've just been taught as teachers that there are certain lines you don't cross, and you keep a lot of those things to yourself. I know that's not true for every educational institution in the country, but the point I'm making is that teachers have certain guards. We're professionals. We know what to do and what not to do. And don't judge all of us holistically, the volume of accomplished teachers in this profession, by what a few of them do in the schools, the limited number of schools that you've worked with or sent your students to. So no, teachers are not instilling hate. Students are a part of their local environment. Let me end these last couple of minutes with explaining this, however. What is missing that I would love to hear the federal government address is culturally responsiveness. What a lot of teachers are doing is reacting culturally or to cultural differences, but not responding. And there's a big difference between being reactive and being responsive. The teaching profession continues to be 60, 70, 80% white, middle-aged white female. And most of them are products of their environment as well. So both teachers and students and parents shape their values, attitudes, and opinions based on their environment, where they come from, and what their experiences have been, as limited as they may have been. What we need is culturally responsive teaching and learning, and we need training. And when I say culturally responsive, I don't just mean race. I don't know why we limit culture to just ethnicity, but if you want to be relevant to children at whatever age group, K through 12, P through 16, then you have to understand what their culture is and what is relevant to them at this time. What it was for me as a youngster in elementary school is very different today for other young people in elementary school, and even myself as I've been exposed to more and had more experiences. So what really is missing in terms of the whole race conversation and what we see happening across the country is the appropriate training that teachers need in order to understand students' lived experiences. A lot of assumptions are being made about stereotypes, about children who come from a single parent family or not, children who speak English as a second language or not, children who have a learning challenge, disability, or exceptionality, children who are gifted or not. Lots of assumptions are being made because we don't always have the right tools and skills and training to differentiate instruction around the needs of those individual students. If you are a parent, this is something that you need to pay attention to because you want to make sure that the teacher is teaching your child, not just teaching his or her content. I remind young teachers and teacher educators responsible for preparing young teachers that we have to explain to them the difference between teaching math and teaching Melanie. Two different things, because the way you teach math to Monica may need to be altered in when you're teaching Melanie. The way you teach social studies to Kathy may need to be taught a different way, with different activities, with different ideas, with different strategies when you're teaching Karen. So I say to young teachers and teacher educators all the time, you're teaching the person, the student, the child, not just your content. And you can't expect the child to cater and acquiesce to your intentions through the content. You have to shift what you're doing so that it gets through to every mind, every brain, every young learner in your environment. I'm going on about teaching methods and strategies and delivery, and that's because I'm an instructional coach at heart, and it's what I love to do. And I work with lots of schools and colleges around the country on that and how to really get teachers prepared and ready on day one. But as we prepare to go back to school this fall, which looks like a puzzle. It just looks different everywhere. We do need to be thinking about how we're going to address the learning gap, what we're going to do about all of the race matters that have been taking place across the country here recently, what we're going to do about students who will continue to learn online and those that will come to a school building, not just managing safety, but also managing learning. And here's the last thing. I need the government to lay off accusations against teachers, and I'm speaking for all the teacher organizations that I've ever been a part of when I say this. Get off of us. Step back from us. This is not the right time to beat up and badger teachers and accuse them for major, huge political issues we have across this country. We cannot make this the teacher's fault. What teachers need now is more support. They need more listening. They need more money. They need more help. They need more strategies. They need more ideas than they have ever had before. From parents, from the community at large, from policymakers, from the federal government, from the state governments. They need more support from colleges, from education agencies like my own Educational Effectiveness Group. They need more of this than they have ever had before. Support, something to undergird them, to help them be accomplished. Because I just said to someone today, as districts and states grapple with what back to school looks like, that has an impact on teachers beyond just their job. It has an impact on their family and their health. I heard today that one school district is going to send half of the students to school on Monday and Tuesday, and the other half of their student population will go to school on Thursdays and Fridays. Wednesdays will be the planning day for teachers to take care of all of the instruction they'll have to deliver online. So let me get this straight. They'll plan and teach a certain group on Mondays and Tuesdays. They'll plan and teach a certain group, which sometimes is another group, especially if you're in a secondary environment or you don't just teach one contained class. So you'll have to plan for that group again or all over again on Thursdays and Fridays. On Wednesdays, you'll have to do videos and plans and show up online for the students who are at home, who'll get 1 day a week of instruction, and then those coming in the building will get 2 days at the front of the week and 2 days at the back of the week. And I know that school districts are doing the best they can to figure out how to do this. But I'm telling you, as I've been following everything that's going on across the country, it is a mess. Everybody is all over the place. You can follow me on YouTube and watch what I've said already in terms of recommendations for rethinking the reopening of schools. But at this point, let's think of everything we can do to celebrate and support teachers. What will they do about their own children if their children they've got one child that goes on Monday and Tuesday, and then the other child goes on Thursday and Friday, and then Wednesday is the online day, but then they have to teach all 5 days in different environments? Have we even thought about that? How will this impact parents who go to work? One of their children may be going to school on Monday and Tuesday. The other child who's in another grade level will be going on Thursday and Friday. Wednesdays, they'll all be at home. How do you get support? How do you get a babysitter? How do you get a nanny? Where do your children go? How does this impact you and your spouse and your job and your whole family environment, how it works? These are serious issues that we have to grapple with. And let me end with this. If you are not a parent and not a teacher, and your attitude is, I don't care about this stuff, it doesn't apply to me, you are so wrong. I could do another whole video on why you have totally missed the boat with that attitude. What's going on in the educational system right now is everybody's business. It requires everybody's support. People need, as a voter, you need to pay attention to what happens next. As a community citizen, you need to elevate your voice and be involved in what happens next. If you've never watched a school board meeting on television or online or in person, this is the right time to do that and to make this your first time. So I hope you've enjoyed listening tonight. I have lots of conversations about what we need to do to support and enhance the educational system. You can follow me on all social media platforms at DrCathyO. Watch my previous videos on YouTube. But just know, teachers are not responsible for instilling hate in students, and teachers need more support from us now than they have ever had before. And that support includes not only how they're going to manage their family and their health being at risk with some of the issues that are going on in the current environment, but how they will manage the schedules of being there for the different days that students are coming to school and what they'll do with their own children. It's a big ball of yarn. It's a whole lot that we have to unravel and grapple with. So once again, thank you for joining me on Newsday Tuesday with Dr. Cathy O. Follow me on all social media. Contact me at info@drcathyo.com or www.drcathyo.com. I am the CEO and founder of Educational Effectiveness Group, and we will help you, your school, your district, your state agency, your college, and right now, even your local ministry and community center if you're trying to provide an alternative homeschool environment for parents who have to work while their children are going somewhere to get educated. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everybody. Be safe. Wash your hands.